This week we will be celebrating the holiday of Shavuot, the holiday of the revelation of the Torah, when all of our souls were said to be standing at Sinai. Not just the Israelites that were then, but all the Jews that ever were, that ever would be. And this week we are also celebrating Jews by choice on this Shabbat and converts. And that's appropriate both because of this notion that all of the Jews that ever were or ever would be, both born and converted, were standing at Sinai to receive the Torah, but also because we read the book of Ruth. And Ruth is sort of the paragon story of converting, of joining the Jewish people by choice. And of course, Ruth is not the first one to be mentioned as joining the Jewish people by choice rather than by birth. She comes after Abraham and Sarah, who themselves are kind of converts, the very first Jews ever. It's also said that they brought nefashot with them, that they brought other souls with them, understood to be conversion. And so today, people who convert take on the Hebrew name of Ben or Bat Avram v'Sarah, the son or daughter of Abraham and Sarah. And similarly, the Israelites, when leaving Egypt, were said to have come out with a mixed multitude, understood as both Israelites and also non-Israelites who left with them, who assimilated into the Jewish people. And so among all of these, still, the rabbis hold Ruth as kind of the seminal story of conversion because she decides to join the people after she has married into a Jewish family. She doesn't convert at that point, but when her husband dies and her father-in-law dies, her mother-in-law says, why don't you go back to your people? I'm going to go back to my land. And Ruth says, no, wherever you go, I will go. Your God will be my God, your people will be my people. And that is taken as this declaration of faith that is the true declaration of someone who converts to Judaism. And in doing that, Ruth makes her mother-in-law's life sweeter. Her mother-in-law, after losing her sons and her husband, has called herself Mara, or bitter. But later on in the story, we see her going back to the name Naomi because she has the joy of a daughter-in-law who is like a daughter to her, and eventually even the joy of a grandchild and knowing that her family's line and heritage will go on. And for this reason, Ruth, who converted, is the ancestor of King David and thus the Messiah. And so on this Shabbat, we think about the sweetness that people who convert to Judaism bring to Judaism. I think you can see this also in a metaphor about water. You think about the story of the Israelites when they're leaving Egypt. They come upon a first stream of water. They're very thirsty, but the water is bitter. It's mar. And they call the place Marah. What do? They're so thirsty. They pray to Moses. Moses prays to God, and they add this wood into the water, and adding this external piece to the water makes the water sweet so they can drink it. And so this reminds me of the process of conversion where people immerse in water in the mikvah, in the ritual bath, in order to declare themselves fully part of the Jewish people. And so by immersing in that water, they immerse in similarly into the Jewish people. They become immersed within us and so make our waters even sweeter in that way. And so this Shabbat, we celebrate the sweetness that is brought to us from people who decide to cast their lot with the Jewish people, who make themselves one of our own, and whose souls were surely eternally Jewish and standing with us all at Sinai. And so Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sameach. See you at Sinai on Tuesday.